This is Ray with School of Racing Graphics, and in this Feedback Friday, we're going to be going through this dirt late model submitted by Scooter Black on the srgfx.com Facebook group. It is an iRacing dirt late model, but really everything that I'm going to do in this video, it applies to both real life racing and iRacing. The only difference with iRacing is the alpha channels. When alpha channels are applied, it's sort of meant to mimic the mirrored look or the chrome look, or it can be used for that. It can be used for many things, but in this particular instance, it's going to be the chrome look. Before I get into it, I was just asked that if you like the videos and you're going to continue to watch the content, if you could just like and subscribe on the Facebook page, it would do me a solid, and I would really appreciate that. So a couple different things before I get started on this particular dirt late model. Overall, it's a solid design. It isn't anything that I would say like it doesn't pass the initial eye test. It does. It passes the initial eye test. Right now, all the numbers and stuff, they look kind of weird because he has alpha channels on them. So when he has it in the game, it looks more like this. So you can see that the 5 is a different color. The 1 in the dirt racing sponsor is a different color. ML, you can just see all the different colors. There's more contrast to it. And so in order to achieve that look, he created it in this color and then applied alpha channels to it to give it some more contrast. And so he wasn't actually trying to submit a design with yellow numbers on white. Even still, I think that there's other ways to go about achieving more contrast with the number than what he has here. And so I'm going to cover that in this video. And I'm going to treat it more like a real life wrap than I am going to an iRacing wrap. So a lot of what I'm doing here is going to be either if we're going to apply like a chrome vinyl or a gold vinyl, or if we're going to actually try to fake it, like kind of fake it till you make it kind of a thing with the chrome look, just using gradients, which is something that I actually like to do. I like that particular technique. So I'm going to just size that down. So what I did is I pulled in some examples of cars that have this in real life from the 80s and 90s. To me, this is one of my favorite looks. Like I actually really like the reflective numbers that are mirrored. There's just something distinct. It's kind of like a timestamp on it. It's got a little bit of a throwback feel, but to me, it always works. But the thing you have to keep in mind is anytime you're trying to do this, it is kind of like a -1 on the legibility, but I like it so much that it's just worth doing. And so you can see there's a couple of out of the 5 examples. I got Darrell Waltrip car, and you can see like the ground, and then like maybe grandstands or pit wall or something like that right here. And then you got the sky, right? This is Davey Allison, I want to say at North Wilkesboro. And so you got the track, and then you got the infield, and then you got the sky, right? Same here. You kind of see there's always like a dark spot in the middle somewhere where the horizon meets the skyline, or where the sky meets the horizon. The same here on this car here. You can see the dark, and then So the point is that the contrast and the legibility is going to vary depending on where the car is on the track. That's the point. So we're going to kind of mimic that kind of look and feel while trying to keep as much contrast as possible in the numbers and in the sponsors and everything, which it can be more challenging when you go with this effect. So you can see, for instance, this Davey Allison car. Like this is like in this moment on the track, this is really like you can't read it, right? So just kind of keep that in mind while you're designing. This is not the ultimate contrast type of design, but there's still things you can do to achieve the readability and legibility of the numbers and sponsors. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. He did submit both sides of the car and the hood, and I don't have, the video would be 3 hours long if I went through every single part of the car. So I typically just go through the driver's side, and I'm going to make a duplicate of this, and I'm just going to drag it down here because I always like to have something to reference. I don't want it on my screen, but I like to always be able to go back and reference the beginning point. So I know, oh, was I making it more readable? Was I making it less readable? Is this actually helping or not? So before I get to designing, there's a few things that I want to point out that I see this in a lot of designs. Now, I need you to understand that with everything that I'm saying, these are not like make or break deals like this, like because I don't like this or because this one thing is done wrong, that the whole thing is junk. There's always something redeemable about a design. So there's a lot of redeemable quality about this design. And then there's some things that for me personally, I would go through and tighten up. So I always am trying in these videos to make it not subjective, like in my opinion, this is better, but actually using color theory and contrast rules to what would make what's already here better, right? So for instance, I heard somebody say earlier today, like, oh, it's a yellow car. I don't like yellow cars. Well, that's subjective. Like nobody cares that person doesn't like yellow cars. Yellow race cars are awesome looking. So it's like every race car can't be red and black. And so our opinion on a color really is sort of irrelevant. If the person that's driving the car likes it, that's what matters, right? Okay, so the next thing I really want to point out, and one of the problems I see in a lot of designs, isn't just the contrast in colors, but it's the contrast in shapes. And so, for instance, he was really trying to use this white here, and I'm going to go ahead and eyedropper his example. He was trying to use the white to, let me see if I can get that out of there. I might need to adjust my eyedropper. Yeah. He was trying to use the white as an example to create a lot of contrast in the color that he had on the number, which makes sense. That's a good practice. The issue is also stroke weights. Okay, so it's not just about, hey, because I got white on here, now I can put a big fat thick black one on and then put a big fat thick red one on. Like this black and this white, they're almost wrestling each other for position on this number, making the number more confusing to look at, more difficult to differentiate what is what and what's the number and what's an outline. And so some of that can be cleaned up just by determining like which one is your dominating outline, which is the one that's going to create the most contrast to the number and really help the number pop out. And that's the one that you kind of bring to the forefront, and everything else kind of is subservient to that. So every outline after the main outline just ends up, being an accent in a way. You don't want to create more contrast. So I always call this, and you've seen it probably, I have a meme with a number 16 on it, a contrast sandwich, meaning I have a dark color, a really light color, a dark color, a semi-light color, and then a dark color, right? It's like your eye is going back and forth without any flow in the color or in the shapes to really draw you into which one is most important. Is it the white outline? Is it the gold number? Is it the black outline? Is it the final red outline all the way on the outside? It's really hard to tell actually where the attention is being drawn because they all have similar size and there's so much contrast in each one. Now, red and black are going to always be good together to create contrast on something bright, because red actually like if you put red on black and that's your contrast, it actually doesn't work well in real life. On a screen that's backlit, it does work, but on a real life car, when you print red on black and you expect people to be able to read it, they won't be able to read that from a distance. Especially colorblind people, they won't be able to read that. So one way to always test is to turn your design black and white. And a quick way to do that in Adobe Illustrator is just create a black shape, set it over top of everything, and then go ahead and just set it to color. And that will kind of really let you see what's popping out the most. So clearly the white is really popping out quite a bit, right? That's the thing that's drawing the most attention, and that's good. It should. And then you got the black, and then you got the red there. You can see it, but it blends pretty well into the black, right? So it's kind of like an accent in a way, okay? So I always like to keep that on my canvas that I can reference it later if I need to. I can bring that over and just continue to look. So what I'm going to do with this number is I'm going to completely break it down and then build it back up and use the model that I build with the number, and I'm going to apply it to all the sponsors. So one last thing before I start designing. I'm a big fan of like the car, and not every car can do this, but I'm a big fan of the car having a theme, right? And so like, what is the idea? And so in this car, I'm struggling a little bit because you've got this kind of tribal, organic number, and then all of a sudden you have this like tech sort of straight lined, hard angle graphic in the background. And they don't seem to be telling like the same story in a way, right? They're not like the theme isn't working in cohesion. Now, the one thing it has going for it is like, the 5 is like super different, right? And so it's got a lot of different shapes to it than you're used to seeing on a 5, which I like that. I like things that are different, even if I don't necessarily like it for me, like I wouldn't put it on my car. I like things that are different just because they're different. But the sponsors all kind of have that blocky feel. So it does help bring the graphic in. But even still, I probably on this car, because the number has so much personality on it, and given the shapes that it has, I would have gone with a more organic graphic with like waves and shreds, and curves and more of an organic feel and less of a straight line feel, because it would go together. It would work with the number. So that's just something to consider. Now that's more of a subjective opinion. That's not something that you have to do. I just find for me and in my eye and the things that I appreciate, is I like the graphic and the number, and the sponsors all to tell a story together and look like they're working in unison. And then the last thing is I'm not going to touch any of these contingency sponsors. I'm not going to mess with them at all. I would say it is good to say there's always going to be a black version of a logo and a white version of the logo. And if there isn't, well, there should be. Okay. My preference is to always lean towards using the colored versions of the logos. That's what they're created for. They have a brand. They're supposed to have that brand. But if you're going to knock down to white or knock down to black, know what their black version and their white version look like and use those instead of, this looks like to me, it was just everything was grayscaled, which can lead to like really bad results in some cases. So I would say like go and find their white version, go find the black version of their logo and use that and just stay true to their brand, because that's what they created it for. Otherwise just use the colored versions. I did like a yellow car not that long ago, number 61. It's totally fictional car, but I turned all the contingencies one color and I turned them yellow and I got called out for it. Like right away, somebody came on and was like letting me have it. And they might not have been being very nice and they could have been nicer, but the reality is that they were right. So, and I knew they were right. And it's something that I've gotten away from doing for a long time. And then I don't know why that day I just felt like doing it. Anyway, so you will get called out on that, especially on real life cars. That is a thing that people are super picky about, especially the brands. See, like this Bryn, like this is supposed to be, I think it's white and then the red outline on the text and, or, maybe it's red background. I don't know. But the thing is that there's a brand there and we need to honor that brand. That's really important. So for now, I'm going to take the graphic. I'm actually going to turn it off. I don't work on my sponsors and numbers with a graphic in the background. I don't want, that's the last thing I'm going to do is work on the graphic. The numbers and sponsors are going to be first. So I'm going to go ahead and break this guy down here, get everything ungrouped. I don't have any of this organized according to the way I would personally organize it. So you'll have to forgive me for kind of working through it. I did save a backup, so I'm just going to delete some stuff out and get right back to base, right? Even this inner shadow, which is pretty cool. I'm going to delete that guy out too. And I'll just undo, select all, make sure that it's Oh, I deleted that C and I didn't mean to do that. Okay. And delete that guy. And now I want to think through, okay, this is going to be a gold number. Let's say that's non-negotiable. We're doing a reflective gold number. How are we going to get this thing to be the most, to be popping off this car and really, to really bang off this car like it's the thing that you see when you look at this car, because that's really what you're wanting to achieve with a number. So I brought in some pre-made gradients so I didn't have to take time during the video to be, you know, making gradients and doing a gradient tutorial. And so you can see they're pretty simple. They're not too complex. If you look over here on the gradient bar, how I built them, this is basically 3 different tones of gold, which are really browns and yellows in that family. And then a different one that's a little bit softer. And there's just having these 2 simple gradients, you can get a lot of dynamic effects. So I'm going to go ahead, first of all, and I'm going to just start with applying what I call like the horizontal mirror kind of, I don't have an official name for it. Can't even pretend. But something like that. Okay. And I'm going to send it 90 degrees. So in theory, what's happening here is we have our sky, then we have our horizon, then we have our ground, and then we have like where the car is coming closer to the ground. And I always like the darkest part to be in the middle, and I'm going to work out from that direction. Okay. So always remember this, subtle details can lead to big contrast. And so you want to build, I hate using this word, I'm going to use this word. You want to build with elegance, okay? You don't want to just slam outlines, strokes, and shadows on your stuff, because that sloppy slam it together kind of a way just leads to like a clunky look that looks almost kind of cartoonish. And I like my cars, I don't mind if they have that cartoony vibe, but I also like the kind of like the little bit of a mystery, like, hey, how did he do that? How did he get that detail in there or something like that? And so the way to do that is with subtle details that end up as large points of contrast. So that's why I'm going to work moving forward. So I'm going to work in the appearance panel. In Adobe Illustrator, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that that's what I do all the time. And I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that guy. And then I'm going to offset the path. I'm going to effect, path, offset path. And we're going to go negative 0.5 pixels. And I'm just going to preview it because we are in iRacing size. If not, we are close. It's maybe a little smaller than that or a little bit bigger than that. I think I sized it up a little bit. So negative 2 pixels will go. Just see what it looks like. So you can see up here, right? Now the 2 fills are the same. That's why you're not seeing quite the difference, right? And so what I can do is just turn the background one green for now, just so I can see what I'm working on. And I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go -1, like that. Oops. -1 pixel. And if you were working on, you know, so I said we're doing this for real life car, but I'm doing it in iRacing size. So just ignore that. The idea is that we're designing as though we're designing for a real life car. We could scale it up at the end and resize things if we wanted to. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead with 1. I think that looks good. I might go a little bit smaller. Let's go negative 0.75 pixels, which probably like in real life would equate to like 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm gonna go ahead and build out another one, and I'm gonna offset that one. So we're gonna double 0.75. So we're gonna go negative 1.5 pixels. Okay, and so now we got 2 of them. We got three fills stacked on top of each other. All right. So you can see I got. I'll turn this one black just so you can see what I'm doing here. So you got this green one, then you got the black one, then you got the gold one. And no, this is not the way I'm designing. I'm just showing you what I've got here stacked in my appearance panel. Okay, this is going to give you a lot of power. You always want to work in your appearance panel. This is the one reason, probably the primary reason, if somebody was using Flexi or CorelDRAW, I would say you need to get into Adobe Illustrator. This appearance panel alone is so powerful in helping you design things quickly and easily and then apply it to other things later. Okay, so I'm going to take the black one. I'm going to apply that same gradient on that, and I'm just going to pop 90 on it, and negative 90 actually, because I want that same, I want it to have that same, no, maybe it is regular 90, just 90 degrees. Yep, there we go. So now it's almost hidden. But if I have this one selected, which is underneath the top one, and I hit the G button, it gives me the gradient bar, which I can move around. So you can see there. So I don't want to move it a ton. I just want to move it up a little bit. And you can see what it does is it kind of blobs out my, what do you call it? Kind of my chrome gold look there. It gives it a little bit of a dip, right? Kind of a dip feel. And that's really what you're after, is that kind of organic, metallic kind of look. Okay, so now I'm going to take the green one, and I'm going to apply that other gradient that I already built. And you can see it's already applied, but it's 0. So if I was to turn it 90, right, now the 2 bars are going horizontal, all right, the 2 bars that I had on the gradient. So I'll turn these off so you can see it. So now you see 1 bar, 2 bar, 1 light bar, 2 light bars, okay? But I would say, because you're trying to fake the idea of light hitting this number, right? And so you don't want to use just like 90 and 0 all the time. So I would pop a 45-degree angle on that, and not that one, the one in the back. 45, okay? And what it does is it kind of puts the shimmers of the number in more random spots, gives it more of a reflective look. And this is something you want to experiment with, and we're going to experiment with it more as I'm working through creating this number with a lot of contrast. But you can already see we got rid of the white. Now look how much contrast just the gold has on the black, right? It's actually doing really well all by itself. So we kind of want to we sort of want to honor that. We don't want to just be like, no, we need a white outline on there, a white outline, a big thick white outline. I don't mind a white outline on there. We're going to put one on, but it doesn't need to be massive, and it doesn't need to take over this thing. Okay. The gold is already doing the job. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to duplicate my bottom piece, the one that we just turned the 45-degree gradient. Okay. Pop that down here. And this one here, I'm just going to turn it white. And I always like using spot colors. And now I'm going to go ahead and offset this path. So I could just take this one here. I don't have to go back through the menu. If I just hold down Option or Alt, and I can just drag and drop it on here. And now it'll duplicate the one that's on here to here. And then all I have to do is come in here. And instead of going negative, which I think that was negative 0.75. So now I'm just going to go plus 0.75 pixels. And just ignore the measurement, what I'm doing with the measurement. Like for now, like don't think that the measurement is official. Like that's how you have to work. I'm just using the scale that was provided by the designer. So I'm literally I literally opened up this file and deleted the template off of it. And now I'm just working from it. And so the sizes are just they're just, what's the word I'm looking? I'm losing my word, but the idea is I'm just working in the size that he sent me. So I guessed it first, and 0.75 worked for me. And so now that's just the basis I'm going off of as I move forward. Okay. So I'm going to turn up the miter limit. You can see that the miters, right, are kind of cutting, like it's cutting through here. And things could get a little bit out of hand, especially with this number. It's got a lot of points. So you can see there, that point is a little bit out of control. So is this one. And you don't got to work it very much to get it back under control. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and leave it as it is. And then, I want to stick with his main shape, but I also want to be in control of my points. So I'm just going to back this guy off a little bit and get that under some control, just like that. Same with this guy here, because if I'm going to apply more outlines to this, and this is already doing that, that thing's going to be a beast by the time I'm done. And I'm not looking to have a point that runs across my wrap. That's a sloppy way of working. You want to have clean shape. So adjust as little as possible to get the desire you're looking for. Now, so now I can turn my white on and off, and I can see still got some pretty good contrast. And the white isn't it's serving its purpose in creating contrast, but it's not dominating now, right? Before, the white was the thing. It was like, you have to look at the white. The white is what you see, no matter what you do, And so, but we really are wanting to draw attention into the number, not into the outline. As much as you can in design, always draw attention to the number and not to the outline. And white, no matter what you do, white is always going to dominate. So if you got a car with gold in it and you want the gold to be the thing that stands out, you got to let white serve the gold. You can't make white come in with like its own personality and just dominate the whole canvas, right? And so it serves its purpose, but like I said before, you got to have some finesse and elegance with it, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and add another stroke, and this one's going to be a little bit thicker because the brand on this car says we got black, we got gold, we got red, okay? So now when I'm thinking of colors like that, black, gold, and red, right? I'm not thinking those are my only colors. I'm stuck with those in every design, right? Like whatever the color color palette is, I have to use those colors only. Now I do have to use them if that's the brand, but my point is use shades of a color. So I like his red. I like that it's nice and bright. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I'm going to throw it in here, but I'm going to pop it as a global and I'm going to name it red. Always name your colors. It just makes them easier to find later. But that doesn't mean that's the only version of red that I can use. I might want to have a darker version of red to help finesse some other stuff in later and create more contrast on objects where I don't want the red to be so bright. So having a darker version will really help. The same with black. If I'm going to use black, it's nice to have black. I would suggest never using total black on an iRacing car, just because the way screens work and all that, I would just back it off to a dark gray. It's going to look black anyway. Otherwise, you end up blowing out a lot of the details of the car because you're using an oversaturated black. And I have a blog post on that if you want to go and read it. So then the same thing, like I don't have, I've got white, okay? So, but I can have an intermittent, like kind of silver, right? And I like to create swatches. I actually don't like to take my percentages down on my colors in case I want to change the color later. It just makes it easier. So I'll grayscale that, back it off just a little bit, and then pop some gray in there, right? Or you can call it silver. And then I'm going to grab this, and I'll just grab this medium gold color, right? And so now you can see I have this full canvas to work from here. I don't have to just stick with blazing red because that's where things start to look cartoony, right? It's like, oh, I only have one marker and this is the only marker I can draw with, and so that's my only option. No, you have lots of options. All right, give me a second. Let me just get a drink of water. See if anybody's asking questions. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my red because the red is part of the brand. Okay, so I can't get away from red, but I do want to get away from separating two different black sources. I don't want a black car, then a red line that makes no actual sense to the number as far as making it readable, right? And then fill in with black again. That it actually doesn't make sense. It's actually like a division for no reason. It's like you're saying, hey, come out, look out here. But what am I looking out there for? Like, why do I want to draw somebody's eye to this shape? Why would that be important, right? So what I want to do is I want to draw people's eye into the 5. So if I'm going to add red as part of the brand, I'm going to add it closer to the original shape of the number. And because red is so much like black in saturation, I can really get away with it creating a dark contrast around the number without it starting to blob the number out. So I'm going to go ahead and offset the path. And this one I'm going to make a little bit thicker. Okay. I'm going to go 1 pixel. Okay. Or maybe I need to go 1.75 pixels, something like that. Okay. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to go a little bit lower because I'm going to add another red one. So we'll go 1.5 pixels like that. Okay, nice and thin. But you kind of see how we're getting away from, let me just grab this here. We're getting away from the cartoony look, right, that we have here, which I'm not criticizing the cartoony look. I think there's a time and a place for it. But this is getting a little bit more sinister looking, right? It's got a little bit more of a vibe to it than this does, right? This is it's kind of got that big chunkiness to it, which when you initially look at it, you might think that's really cool, but then when you really think about its function, the function is being is not, you got the form here over function, and we want the function over form, if that makes sense. So the purpose of the 5 is more important than how the 5 actually looks, and the purpose of the 5 is to be readable. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop another red on here, and I'm going to set this one out, and we'll go 2.5 pixels. Okay. And so it's starting to close up, and I don't necessarily want it to close up. I don't like that. Like I want some real clear shapes in here, really something that's really gonna pop out. So I'm probably going to back that down just a little bit. So I'll turn that green for now, and you can see, yeah, I'll turn down this red, and we're gonna go 1.25 pixels. Okay, and that's nice and bright. And then on this one, we're going to go, we'll say 1.75 pixels. And in my head, I just kind of always have the numbers in my head as far as how I'm using them. And so I'll turn that one red as well. Okay, but I'm going to do something a little different on this one. So now that opened things back up for me, and so I can really still see the nature and character of the 5, and I've not sacrificed anything, and the shape is still really crystal clear, right? And when I turn it black and white, what is the red doing? The red is serving the black, right? Serving the black and still creating contrast around that white. Okay, and so that is how you know that you're getting legibility from a distance, right? And so that's really going to help when the car's coming out of turn 2 and you're sitting in turn 4 to be able to see that number. Now, if this was my number and I was putting these outlines on it, I would pull this up just a little bit, just to give myself a little bit more room. And if you didn't see me do that, you wouldn't have known that I did it, right? Because I didn't change the character of the number. I just opened things up a little bit, right? Gave it a little bit of breathing room. I might bring this spike down just a little bit to help just make it look a little softer and more natural, right? Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, because we're going to have that big white graphic in the background, right? And if I just put that big white graphic in, let's just see what it looks like. This is not going to create, let me delete that. It was an iRacing template piece in there, a wireframe. Okay, I'm going to remove that. All right. This is not going to create enough contrast between the white graphic in the background, right? And so I'm going to propose that we would actually change the graphic, which is something I usually don't propose. But in this case, I'm going to actually give some options on that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the 5, and I'm going to take the red here. Now this next outline is really going to serve the purpose of creating some separation from the background to the gold. Okay, so I'm going to turn it the black color, and so we got black here, and I'm going to name it black. Oh, can't do that because I already got one named black, so this one must be named black. Yeah, it is. And even on my black, I'm gonna take it down just a little bit. So I'm gonna go into CMYK. No, not CMYK. Grayscale, and just back it down to like 98. Okay, that's gonna help lighten some things up a little bit, but actually make the car look just overall better. It would look better racing. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and take this. I got it on here, and I'm gonna offset this path, and this is gonna be a nice thick one. Okay, really nice thick one. So I'm gonna go, let's say 2 pixels, just test that out, see how it looks. Like nothing. So we'll go 5 pixels. Okay, so there you go. Now you're starting to see a nice thick outline, and I might come back and adjust this in a minute. So I'm gonna leave that on there for now, but I'm gonna go ahead and create another one. But I don't need to go crazy with my colors and or with my overall size on my outlines. I'm building out with I know I probably need to find a different word, the elegance. I'm building out a thick outline, but I'm making it kind of blend into the car where it's not so overbearing, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and offset path this So we'll go 5.75 pixels, like that. So it thickens up even more. But on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a darker, so we're going to add another tone here, and we're going to make it like, not black, not exactly super dark, but not super light either. Something like that. But you can see we're getting the separation, but I don't necessarily want that gray to just cut right through. I kind of like how the black looks on the white. So what I'm going to do is take this here, and I'm going to pull it down here onto a gradient. So I'm going to ditch all these little tabs. If you didn't know, you can always just take your gradient bar, just move it like that. It gives you more control. And then I'm going to take my black and bring it down here. So now you can see what we're getting is a nice kind of fade. I'm going to say let's do 90. See what happens. So it looks like the light is at the bottom. I want the light at the top. The light, I could just do that. And like that. And so you can kind of see the very gradual look of it. And then I can just reset my workspace and it'll bring that back for me. Okay. And so let's see, what do I got here? So I got my black, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to the way I set the black, which was lighter, I would think. Let me see what I did there. Okay. Assume something's wrong here. Yeah, this is set to CMYK. I think I need to have it at RGB. Went to CMYK, I think, because I was at grayscale, something like that. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and set one more outline. So I'm just going to duplicate that. Okay, and I'm going to offset that path again. So we're going to go. What was I at? 5.75. So now we're going to go up to 6. See what that looks like. And let's go 6.25. 6.25 pixels, like that. And now this one, I'm kind of thinking about sliding it back down to kind of fade back into the background, right? Again, I don't need a big thick thing out here drawing attention, just something kind of subtle and nice, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring this guy down here. Take that. Take this. And I think my problem is this. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it pitch black for now, and then I'll adjust my colors. So get back to my outline. And this I'm just going to pull down just a little bit, like that. And you see that out there? You see that little bit out there? Zoom in on it. Okay? But look it eventually, it just disappears, right? We don't need it to be loud and proud. We just need it out here for a little bit to create just a little, like a touch, right? A nice little touch out there. And so the same is, think of it like painting. When you're painting, you're not just blobbing stuff around. You're thinking it through. You're thinking through every outline and what is its purpose and what does it serve. And so the same with this kind of lighter outline. So we'll go up one to this guy. But this one, maybe I want to drag some more light down into here just a little bit. Okay. So the more I drag this guy through here, am I on the right one? I'm not on any of them. There we go. Okay. The more I drag this guy, actually I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to bring black down like that. And then I'm going to adjust the black like this. Something like that. Bring it down. Like that. And it just gives a little bit of a differentiation, right? Right between here and here. And so I could drag it some more as long as I have it selected. And if you really wanted to get crazy and have like a particular look, You could start putting reflectives in here like we did with the gold, right? I'm trying to refrain from that a little bit. I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm going to go back to the outside, and I'm going to draw this one, bring it up a little bit. So now you can start really seeing the crispness of that line. But by the end of it, they're both sort of just disappearing, right? They don't have a lot of contrast all the way throughout. And so now when you zoom out, they both serve their purpose really well. And so now when you see the number like that, you can really see that the eye is being drawn into the gold instead of just into all of these different shapes. Right now on this one, your eye is being drawn into that white. Okay, and that's not necessarily bad. This is not a fail design. I just don't think it's the actual best route for what was trying to be achieved. Okay, so now if I take this here, you could really see that 5 just really pop out there. And you take it here, and you could really see that white popping out there. Okay, and that's the difference. And so one thing I would probably do, again, I appreciate that these lines are so clean because I can come in and open things up a little bit to give myself more contrast. Always remember this. You get contrast in colors. You get contrast in shapes. Okay? Shapes create contrast. When one shape looks different than the other, it's contrast. So by opening things up, you're creating more contrast with the shape. Okay? So I think that that's pretty good for the number 5. We could probably do some other things with it. But I think as of right now, I'll just leave it as is. So the one thing, though, to consider is now we have this 5 and it's redesigned and it's given us a lot more space. So now the 5 can really start to dominate this design, right? It doesn't just have to, it was kind of really small before and there was a lot of space being taken up by all of the thick outlines. But now we only have one thick outline, right? And the rest are just kind of really good accents. And you can still even see everything matches the brand. The brand has not disappeared. We just changed the construct to bring more contrast to the original number shape. And that's really what's important, okay? So typically on these letters, when I'm designing letters that go next to numbers, I try to keep them a little bit more simple. I don't try to get overly complex with them because they're smaller and you just really at the end of the day, you need to keep them easy to read. So for now, I'm just going to stick a black outline on this C. And we could go 1.5 pixels, something like that. And maybe 2. 2 pixels. Let's do 2. And because of the nature of this font, it's got a lot of little points and it's creating all these other little points. I'm just going to go ahead and pop around on that instead of what was it set to, miter. And by having it round, it just cleans all those other little shapes up and just helps all the shapes work together. Let's turn this up just a little more. So we'll go, what did I have it at? 2.5, 3 pixels. Okay, so I think that is pretty good for now. I would try to, maybe as I'm working through, eliminate this white behind the C so that there's more contrast to the C. I always like to have a little bit of overlap on my number, but I actually think maybe in this particular instance, it looks better separated. And one thing you can do in Illustrator is you could take 2 elements like this, group them together, and when you look in your appearance panel, you see group. But so you could just add a new fill. And then that new fill, you just bring it below what's called contents, which is the content. And then I'm just going to set it to green so you can see it. And then I can offset the path. So path, offset path. And we're going to go 1 pixel. And now you can see it puts a final outline on the whole thing all together, right? And I can adjust it and everything will adjust with it. So let's see, I can go 100. 100 is like my go-to. And you can see I got a little point there that's out of control, that kind of a thing. And so I'm not even saying that you need that. I'm just saying that that's an available option. So now I have this style built, which is really powerful, right? I might bring it down just a little bit because this point is getting up there. So I don't want my points to go off the car. So I'll probably just adjust this guy just enough to keep him off the top of the car flatten them out just a little bit. And again, I'm not trying to change the character, not trying to change the way the number looks, but I do want it to fit. And I want it to have the proper space that it needs. Kind of brings that point in a little. Okay. And let's just see what happens when I shear this back 25 degrees. Not 125, 25. 25 is kind of like the magic number. Everybody uses it. I don't mind going up to 35 depending on the number and the shape of it. So we're going to say this one's 35. So that looks pretty straight up and down, maybe a little bit more. But I might widen this guy out just a little bit. Get him to take up some more space. I love beefy numbers. Like the number to me is all the character of a car. You could have crappy everything else, and if the number looks good, I like it. So it really is kind of like the focal point and the brand of the driver. Okay, so for now I'm going to leave it sized up like that. I widened it up a little bit. Notice it didn't stretch any of the outlines or strokes or anything because they're live. So I'm not stretching or changing any of that. Okay, so I'm going to have to maybe move some of these things around. So I'll pull this guy over here. Take the Schaefer oil and pull it over here for now. And Kaiser, get a new spot because I don't want it touching anything. Okay, so now with the 5, oh, you know, there was one thing I didn't do with the 5 that I meant to. I put 2 red outlines on it and then did nothing with the second one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, because I like that gradual feel, I'm going to go ahead and pop a gradient on that. So I'll just do this. That's what I'm using my dark red for, right? Subtlety, which really helps it blend into the black. So you take a look at that, right? Super subtle, but there's the red. There it is, right? It looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And now you can see by the time it gets to the top, we got a nice thick red. But as we go down, it starts turning into a darker, which really helps it blend into the black and look like one unified piece of a design element, right? And that's what we're going for. Okay, so now when I do this, look at that. Lots of contrast here. Lots of contrast. And there's other things you can experiment with when you're working with these numbers. So for instance, let's say that this part wasn't contrasting. Well, you would just go into your gradients that are in your number. Okay, so let's say this one here. And maybe I could eliminate like a white piece and see how it brings some darkness into that. And that just that little bit helps with some contrast. I can go back to my original piece and I could say, no, you know what? I want to add black into that, really make that thing look super dynamic, right? But anytime you do that, just know you're sacrificing legibility. The black looks nice. I added it to the wrong one. Get out of this. Come on. All right, what did I do here? Maybe I just need to zoom in and out and it'll fix it. Nope. Sure enough, it's just going to stick there. Oh, there we go. Moved it and it fixed it. All right. So when we take that, when you think about like dirt late models, like even when you're thinking about East Coast modifieds, like man, big fat numbers on anything always win the day. Like especially if you're thinking about, you know, like a lot of cars actually have really crappy looking sponsors on them, and it's not to anybody's fault except for the person that provided the logo, like an attorney at law or whatever. Their logos are always built with like Times Roman. And so there's only so many ways to like polish that on a race car, you know? And so you just do your best, but the reality is that the number is the feature. And so you just want it to be super loud and proud. All right. So going back, I'm going to go back and reset my workspace. And then I'm just going to take a look. I just want to reference what he had. So see how, like, I'm not sure if it was the shape of the number or what, but he really pushed it. Maybe I did that. Did I do that? I probably did that. Yeah, looking at his image. So yeah, you can see it's pretty decent size. I would want to pull that forward because there's just space here. And then I would really want to benefit with whatever's left over to size this guy up, right? Because that's the sponsors is actually really important. And so using that space up really helps bring the whole theme of the design together. All right, so I moved it forward. So that means we're going to be moving quite a few different things around. All right, so now that we have this graphic style built, I could just drag and drop that into my graphic styles, and I can use it anytime. Now, one thing a lot of people get hung up on graphic styles is you want to have your scale, styles, and stroke on. Otherwise, you're going to size it down and all your sizes will stay the same. So in your transform panel, you can see mine's checked. It's also in preferences. You can go to preferences, general, and it's right here. Same exact setting. It's just in two different places. And so you're going to, if it wasn't on and I unchecked it and then I sized it down, you can see everything's like super fat, right? And so I want it to be on because I want to use this for other things now. And I can't just apply, this because of the scale of the number. I can't just start putting it on other things and assuming that I'm going to get a good result. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup this. And I'm going to grab this guy down here. And this is just going to be by eye. I'm going to size it down after I get my setting back. I'm going to size it down like so. And then I'm just going to test it. Drop it in here. And then I'm going to ungroup that guy. And I'm going to see what it's going to look like to apply that to this. And you can see already, like, to me, that already looks 10 times better. There's some work to do. There's some things to go in and fill in. But it already is kind of it's giving it that more kind of like sinister, I call it like a mature look. It's got a mature look to it where it doesn't just look like a cartoon. This point is a little out of control, so I'd back that guy down. And then I would go in and probably adjust each of these strokes because they don't need to be as thick as the 5 one is, right? And so you can see we got some definite like pieces here that are just too thick and some other things happening with our miter limit. So I'm going to go in and adjust the miter limit. I probably should have did it on the original so I didn't have to do it a bunch of times, okay? And again, we're working with a chrome look. It's always kind of the hardest look to achieve. And have contrast and to actually make things look right because you're putting dynamics within your number. And so you've got contrast already happening within your the standard shape of your font or your number. And so now you're trying to make it all work together, right? And so it is a challenge. And there's a lot of times people email me and they're like, how do you always know like how to do this and how to do that? Well, I sit here for an hour and I try things out until it looks right. It's not Batman in the Lego movie where it's like first try, it's just never like that. Designing is a lot of like experimenting, playing around, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. The same with, drawing. If you're drawing with a pencil and paper, like I spend just as much time erasing things as I do adding things. And that's just part of being a creative person is you got to be willing to fail a whole bunch of times until you land on what's right. All right. So I'm going to adjust these just a little bit more. Still, that point is going really far out. And sometimes when you got this many outlines going on, it's kind of easy to lose track of which one you're working on and where it is. So just kind of always be referencing this. I sometimes like to close you can close these so you can kind of have an easier time looking at it. But as soon as you click them, they open back up. But you can see, we got a whole lot of stuff going on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different outlines. But really, it's really 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 with this gray because they're all serving one another. The red is actually just red, right? We just added a detail to it. So I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, it's doing a weird thing. It's locking up on me when I click it. There we go. So I'm going to set that to 90. And depending on your settings on your eyedropper has all these settings. You could double click your eyedropper, it pulls all this stuff up. And like, if you click these and start, like, it'll do certain things like, oh, I recognize that the gradient is like angled at 45 degrees. So I'm going to eyedropper the 45 degrees with the color. And if you don't have certain settings on, it'll just grab the color, but throw it at 0. And so just know, like, those settings are within your eyedropper. So I'm going to get to that thick black there because I want to tone it down just a little bit. And I have no idea where we're at, so we're going to experiment with 3 pixels and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to go up to 6 pixels. It's about right where we were, so let's go 5. Again, like if I was working a full size car, I would be working in inch increments. Even 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch, 1 3/8. Like, that's how you want to think it through, because once you create that system in your mind, designing gets way faster. You just get much faster at designing once you know your increments. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. What was I at? 6, 5.5, 5.5. And I do want to create some consistency. I'm not trying to do something new over here, right? So we'll go 5.75. Yep. And then we'll do offset path, and we'll do 6.25, something like that. We'll go 6.5. And right now I'm thinking too, like, as I'm designing this is the one I'm probably going to use on all the sponsors and maybe adjust it a little bit. So I'm going to tone down some of my golds a little bit as far as how thick they are. So we'll go down to 2, that, and then this one here, we'll go down to 1, that, something like that. And I may or may not come back and adjust those later. I'm always willing to, like, little things like this, I'm always willing to just come in and adjust that, because it just makes things way easier. And it's like, it didn't really change the character that much that anybody's really going to notice. Like, if it was the base fuels, I would not touch it like that. You just don't even play that game. But like with the logo that, like, either I made or I know where it came from or all that kind of stuff, like, I'm typically going to make little tweaks to it to get the outline to do what I want. So as we zoom out, now you can kind of see the character really flows pretty well with what we got going on there. Okay, so now we have a super big challenge, because now we have this kind of like, I don't want to change the logo. I don't want to change the construct of it, as far as, like, it would just be easier if this was over here. That would just be better because then everything is like super easy to read and, you know, great, but that's not how it's built. So we got to think through how we're going to do this, right? So my first thought is to turn this black and pop a white outline on it, so that it really pops off of that gold there. I'm not thinking that that's going to work for sure, but it might. And so I actually think that works. And what I really like too is that the white stroke here, it plays into, it kind of combines it all, it brings it together. And so I just think that that's really important as far as keeping the brand consistent, and having the D to have that gold, it just brings in what we're already trying to accomplish, so that the theme, again, it carries out. It starts here, it's here, we're going to put it here, we're going to put it here, we're going to put it here. And so then the theme continues throughout the whole car, and everything looks like it's working in unison. So I might use that practice here with that grouping. So first what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to thicken this guy up just a little bit. We want a little bit more separation, not a lot, but some. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to go to Effect, Path, Offset Path. We're going to go 0.5 pixels. Try that. I think that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to take the last one I got here, this gradient. I'm going to drag it down here. So now it's down here. And then I'm going to remove it off of the D. And then I'm going to combine these two together. oops, all 3 of these pieces together. Okay, so now it's the group. And it looks like he had some pieces in here that we didn't need. Let me see what's going on here. Oh, we need the speed part too. So this, and the white. Just holding down shift and clicking these, grouping them together. And then I'm going to hide them real quick with Command 3. And then anytime I see a mess like that, I just delete it out. That kind of stuff can crash your file. Just know that. The random crap laying around like that, you think, no big deal. When your Illustrator crashes and then the file doesn't open back up, that sucks. So just consider that while you're working as clean of a space as you can. And it looks like there's more in here. I can't really tell for sure, but by my naked eye, I feel like I'm seeing some more green maybe. Yeah, maybe a figment of my imagination. What I do like the idea of, though, is turning that red, because I think red on white is a really good contrast point. So now I'm going to take this whole thing like this, and I'm going to take my group, and I'm going to create a new fill. And again, I'm going to set it to the back, and we're going to offset that path. And you can create an action. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video because I don't want this video to be 9 hours long. But you can create an action that sets off offset paths for you so that you're not having to do all of those steps every single time. So I'm going to go to 1 pixel like that. And yeah, you can see there it is. And see how it's hugging everything? It brings it all together. Nice. And now I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. So it's the same outline that I had on the D, but now I have it around everything. And I want to make sure that I set it to 90 degrees so that my lighter color is up at the top and my darker color is at the bottom, because that's what I've been trying to achieve the whole time. One little thing I noticed that kind of annoyed me about this logo is you can see right here, and maybe this is just me being super picky, but being picky is what you should be as a designer, is see how tight it is here, and then it gets looser like up in this area. So we either want to shear this a little bit more or shear this back a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the D and shear it 1 degree. All right, so now we got the skew. It looks like we took care of the skew on this guy here. It's pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and shear it one more time. 1. Preview it. Oh, I'm shearing that back. Yeah, it's different. Okay. Go ahead and click OK. And then I always like to keep my stuff grouped. So like if I'm building a sponsor, like I want that as its own group that I can come back and edit later. So I'm going to go ahead. Notice the miter limit on that last stroke isn't right. It's getting cut off. So I'm going to go ahead to that offset path, set my miter limit. I always just turn them up to 100. And if I want to adjust them later, I can. What did I do there? That offset path, 100. Okay. There we go. All right, so now I have this new style that I'm going to play with as far as being able to put it on other sponsors. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in there. And that's going to help me, especially on this like smaller stuff. Like again, I'm probably going to have to adjust it again for each one, but at least I have like a really solid starting point for sponsors with these smaller lines and adjustments. So I'll paste this here and just bring that down a little bit. This one's going to be a little bit tricky because he has some details in there. So I'm going to delete everything out except for what's necessary. And pop that on there like that. So that in that particular instance, this doesn't work because the white is plugging up my holes. It's not being helpful. So what I'm always willing to do on these smaller sponsors is I'm willing to sacrifice something, right? Something's got to go. Can't fit every single detail in every little thing. So it's really important to note that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to size this down just a little bit more, drag and drop it in, go ahead and pull this, pop that on there. Okay, so now I got my shock back at the very least. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to ditch this one here and I'm going to turn it white. Okay, so now my white's set to the inside, and then I'm going to pull this guy here and just delete it. And now I have white here, and then I can just I think I could just leave it like that, actually. Zoom out. It's a little less contrast than I would like, as far as maybe I'll take the red down. I'm going to take the red down, and I could ditch one of the reds. Again, you don't need all the details for every single component, so we're going to try like that. I think that's actually probably going to be good. And this guy here, he's got it set up as gold. I think I would just pop that red like that. Delete that out. And then bring down this. Now remember, we're working on a smaller decal, so it's not as important that we're keeping all the details. So you got to be willing to sacrifice stuff on small stuff. You just got to pick and choose what it's going to be. So we'll go 2.5. Ah, crap. Let's go 3. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then I'd probably, given the fact that there might be a graphic underneath this, I'm probably going to take this guy, and I just want to keep it like it's a small detail, so I really want to just keep it solid. So I like what I did with the C, right? Got a nice thick outline on it, so I'm going to just bring it up here, take a look at it next to the performance. Create some good separation, and then I'm going to drag and drop that in here. And then I'm going to pop that on there. And that just really helps clean it up. And there's some other work I could do. You know, this isn't my logo, so I don't know what the liberties are with it. But one thing I would consider is like taking the M and just maybe get a little bit more space between the M and the L, just for readability. And then pull this guy up here just to tighten it up. And then I'm going to delete that, like that. Okay. And then I can delete that. And if you ever get to the point in your graphic styles where it's like you got a million in here and you're only using like 3, you can just always go to select all unused, and it'll grab the ones that you're not using, and then you can just delete them out and then get rid of them for you. Just helping to keep your workflow nice and clean. Okay. So, and then if you want to drag this guy around with you, it just always shows you what graphic style it is. So it's like if I want to know what the number one is, it highlights it, right? The same with what's up here. Okay, so this one here I've not thought about at all. So it's going to get a little bit tricky as far as how are we going to make this extremely readable. I like that the 1 sticks out. Like I like the fact that the 1 is kind of like the thing really drawing attention. So I'm going to keep his original up here just so I have a reference point. I know that I'm not getting like super far away from the logo. And I've seen this on like a lot of cars. I think that this is a pretty standard logo in the sim world. But the 1 is definitely going to end up styled separately from the rest. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff here. Get rid of the inner shadow. Okay. And I really want to use what I've got here. I might actually be able to size it up a little bit. Drop it on here and experiment, see what happens. Okay, so one thing I don't like already with that style being on that number is it closes up the detail of the D and the R, right? It's like the gap is gone. I can see that it's a D, I can see that it's an R, but the gap is gone, and so we don't want that. So again, because of the nature of how small this is, we're going to want to sacrifice something. So we're probably going to get rid of this white. Okay. And then we're going to set the first gold on the inside. We're going to set that to white. Okay. And then I don't know if it had an offset path. It looks like it didn't. I don't really like taking the white and expanding it more. I really like the idea of keeping the number, the original or whatever, the letter. Like I like keeping it crisp. I like whatever the original shape of the font was, I like that to be crisp. I don't like blobbiness. I don't like filling in gaps. I don't like things to be expanded to make it look thicker. I don't like any of that. But in this case, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But not a lot, just a little bit. Effect, path, offset path. We're just going to go 1 pixel, like so. Don't know why. So we'll go 0.25 pixels. Like that. And so look, I'm not looking to do a lot, just a little bit in there. And then let me look at my 5 just to see where we're at kind of. So you see, I didn't put like a big thick red on the 5. And so we don't need to have big thick reds on our sponsors either, right? It's just bringing the brand through. That's what we're doing. Bringing the brand through the car, and it's helping just create a lot of consistency in the design. And I started with the wrong one. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off. And then I'm going to turn this one down. So we'll go down to 1. And again, I'd be willing to sacrifice one of these reds because of the nature of how small the sponsor is. But I don't mind experimenting for a little bit. I allow the design to tell me what works. The moment something becomes unreadable or blobby is when I start changing things. Like that's the thing I don't want to sacrifice is like, hey, look, I really decorated that and all the decorations on it look really cool, but you can't read it. Well, yeah, you got to start over. Like you can't, that can't be the way it is. It can't be form over function. Okay. So one thing I could do to help make this a little bit more readable is change the gradient, right? So you can see the gradient. You can always, your gradients don't always have to be exactly the same on every single element on the car, okay? So if I really want to bring more readability in here, I could bring the white up a little bit more. You can see it kind of gives it more of that reflective look, right? But by bringing that white in, really helps draw more attention to numbers. And then you can tighten up your chrome in the middle, or the goldish kind of reflective look in the middle, right? And so you can see there. And then you can always feel free to just bring a little bit more white back into the bottom. And then you kind of have like a washed out, like rose gold look. If you don't like it too much, you could just bring this back down a little bit. But there you can kind of see it, right, working together. And so now I could do the same thing with this one. Now, if I want, I could just get rid of all the really dark stuff in this one, just so that it kind of really helps it be more readable, but it's still got the vibe. It's got the gold vibe. Like I said, that reflective type of design element in any design, it makes everything more difficult because there isn't, if you just said, hey, the numbers are going to be red or the numbers are going to be black or whatever, it gets really easy to determine what's going to happen next. But when it's reflective, it's like, oh man, I gotta make sure the next outline is going to really make some contrast, but isn't going to be overbearing, right? So you got to think that through. Okay. So now with this one, I kind of want to do something totally different. I don't want to just add gold to it because it's kind of a cool thing. I say it's cool. I just realized I created the one. That's my one. Okay. So, I could do that, right? But then it all kind of just runs together. And so that's probably not the approach that I want to take. I really like the red. So let's say I was just going to build this out and we're going to go red. Actually, you know what? Let's put this on there and let's ditch all of our golds. And then let's pop this as red like that. Okay. And then we can go, let's see, white. And then this white here. And we don't need an offset path on that. That keeps it nice and crisp. Now you really can kind of see, right? It reminds you of, what's his name? Josh Richards, right? When Josh Richards was driving the blue rocket car, right? Look. Anyway, it's kind of got that same vibe to it. But the point is that it's all working together, right? And it's got some good contrast. And we've already created this style, so why not just keep going with it? I'm going to size it up a little bit. So I want some more thickness to it. And I'm going to drag and drop that in here. Okay, and then I'm going to grab racing, delete what's already here, and then pop the thicker one on, just because I like to have more control. I like to have a live outlines and stuff on it, okay, if that makes sense. So I did myself a disservice, and I moved a bunch of stuff around down here, and I probably shouldn't have. Because I always like to see what shapes are being created inside of behind sponsors and things like that, and like how is the graphic affecting it, right? So when you look here, like I'm not a big fan of like things like that. Like I like clarity in these areas if it can be helped. So okay, going back to it. I think what I will do is not add anything. I'm going to go ahead and offset this, and we're going to say 2 pixels. No, 6 pixels. In this instance, I'm kind of wanting to mimic what I've got over here to create some consistency. So let's go 4.5. Right, 4.5, maybe 4.25. Right, nope, don't do that, Ray. 4.25 px. There we go. I think that's pretty good. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same here. So I'm just going to go up to 5.5. Maybe it doesn't need to be as thick as what I had on there. And I could, honestly, just like I did before, I could get rid of this. I could get rid of that. And then I could get rid of that. And then I could group these together. So I could turn up my black outline just a little bit on this one and go up to 5. And then group these together. And then add new fill. Bring it below the contents, comma. There we go. And then pop that on there. 90 degrees. So you can see there's a lot of steps in design. If you're new to design, you repeat them over and over. And really it's helpful because it helps you get used to it. Like I would rather not be sitting here showing you all my actions and the things that I have set up as shortcuts, because when steps are repeated, it teaches you really quick. Like, oh, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that again. And then you begin to just learn where things are, and it becomes like riding a bike. Like it's just second nature. Like you almost can't forget how to ride a bike once you're riding a bike. Once you can, it's like you losing your balance on purpose. You have to like be drunk or like, I don't know, doing something wrong. So let's see, path, offset path. And we're just going to go 1.5 pixels. And that's too much, so we're going to go 1 pixel, like that. So that kind of brings it all together nice and clean. Okay, and maybe we can go a little thicker. Offset path, 1.25 pixels, like that. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we got 2 more sponsors to go. Now the reality is like I'm doing this feedback video, right? And you kind of see I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Each sponsor provides its own hurdle, like its own thing that you're like, you have to make unique decisions for that particular one, right? But the idea is always the same. How do I make that more readable? How do I make it so that there's more attention being drawn to the original text? Here's the biggest mistake that I always see. Okay, I'm going to do it on this particular sponsor here. I'll do it on this one, actually. So get a sponsor built, it's popping on the car, and somebody says, hey, you need to make that pop, put a white outline on it. And that is a disaster. That is what I call a contrast sandwich. It just creates an outline that doesn't actually make sense. So now if I was going to do that, I would say, all right, let's do that. Let's do the thing that the person told me to do because they said to do it. So I'm going to go 2.5. And now I'm going to go, let's go 3. All right, now I'm going to put the white on here. And to the naked eye, you're thinking, yeah, that's right. There's nothing wrong with that. That looks good. It's solid. The elements are solid. It kind of looks like it belongs on a race car. And I would say you're right. Like I'm not saying like never do this. Like you can't ever do this. I think there's instances where this works. But the reality is what you're doing is you're saying, hey, look out here. And when you look out there, what you're really actually getting is a shape that doesn't read like anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't provide anything. it's actually not drawing more attention. It's drawing attention to itself rather than the text, which is really the opposite of what you're trying to do. So what you're actually ending up with is this. This is what people's eyes are being drawn to is this shape. So if you just think of it in this context, right? That's what people are primarily seeing, and that doesn't read anything. That doesn't show anything. But that's now the main point of contrast on the number. And so that's why you'll always see on almost all of my cars, everything gets blended to the background if it can be helped. There's instances where it can't be helped, but everything gets blended to the background. I didn't put a big poppin' white outline on the back of this D because I didn't want to draw a bunch of attention to the final outline when what I want is for people to read the sponsor, right? And so you got to think that kind of stuff through as you're designing. And if you don't, you just end up with cars that have all these outlines everywhere, but they don't really actually serve a purpose except one thing, which the one thing that I do appreciate about it is it creates a continuity of color and stroke width, which is helpful in some instances, but in most instances, it's just not. So I'm going to undo that. That was my soapbox. All right. There's other things here that I would do to clean it up. I did appreciate that he had this filled in with black and that filled in with black. And just for the sake of time on this video, I'm not going to do that, but that is something that I would normally do. Okay. So again, we got this graphic style here, kind of digging it. I'm going to go ahead and drop it here. And then I'm going to get rid of everything else he's got going on with his duct tape racing. And I'm going to pop that on there. Nope, not that one. Where is it? Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to ungroup this. Actually, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to go back to him. Oh, we did go back to him. All right, I'm going to go back to this guy. So I'm going to ungroup it after I make a duplicate, because why would I do that? All right. And I'm going to go ahead and throw that here. Okay, because I like how we put the construct of the white on the inside, or closer to the inside of the text. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply it here and see what happens. Okay, so that's a little cleaner. Not exactly perfect. White's too thick, right? So now I have to make decisions based on this particular text. And that's important. It's like you can't just do the same exact thing on everything. You're going to have to think through each one. So I'm going to take the offset path off of there. And I could probably minimize this just a little bit. So I'm going to bring it down to 55, something like that. Okay. No, bring it down to 50. Like that. Okay. And, in this particular instance, it might be better to not have the reflective in there at all. So I could actually just get rid of this. And now I have this nice clean kind of gold thing happening in the text that isn't, it's not so distracting because the text is so small. It's like this is a good backup plan is what I'm trying to say. Okay. What I don't like, got all these gaps and things right in between my text, which is not always super helpful. So I have a couple options that I could do. What I'm thinking to do on this one is I'm going to thicken up my original solid red until these 2 points touch, and then everything else I could just fill in by hand with a pen tool. So because I do like that it kind of fades out, right? So I'm going to do, let's see, go here, and I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 1, 5, that. See, now everything's touching, and then I'm going to bring this guy out, and I'm going to go 1, 7, 5, like that. Maybe a little more. Let's go 2. Let's just go to 2. Call it a day. That. Okay. And now I don't like it, and you get, this is a choice I'm going to close these up. That's what I'm going to do here. And so that might end up being a lot of red and start looking really blobby. So maybe I don't want to do that. It's kind of like one of those things. You got to make the choice as you're going. There is never there's not always a slam dunk, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And so maybe it would actually be better to just ditch this and then have this like that. Let's try this. That kind of makes pretty good sense. It goes with the branding, but let's look at his original. What did he have? He had all these outlines on it. Okay, so we can remedy that. Actually, he's got this shape, which I'm just not a huge fan of that shape. And the reason I'm not a huge fan of that shape is because it's a little bit of slop. I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but this is a little bit of sloppy logo building because you got random, right? So I'm okay with that. I guess it's going to happen sometimes. But I like how clean this looks, right? So I'm going to try something a little bit different, and maybe he'll change it back. But I'm going to do what I would do. So what I want is I'm going to go ahead and take this, group it together, do a new fill, and we're just going to offset the path. Offset path, and let's go 2 pixels. And what I always do is I'm going to turn it green. So yeah, so I put the offset path up here. It's got to go on the new fill. And then I'm going to turn that green just so I can see what I'm actually creating. So it looks like I have black on there. And I don't really know how I got black on there. Did I leave it on there? Yeah, I did. I did not know I had that on there. Okay. So I'll get rid of those. That'll bring my green down some. Okay. The other thing I'm seeing is it looks like this is not skewed the same as that, which to me is always like super problematic. Like I think either match them or be really intentional about one being straight and the other one being skewed. So I'm going to go 2 pixels. That seemed to undo it. Transform shear 2. Yeah. Let's try 5. Kind of guessing a little bit, but that looks a little bit, that's not right. Like that. That's close enough. I can sit there and play with that probably all day. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I normally don't like to do this, but I want a nice clean shape that if I can help it. So I'm going to go ahead and go object, path, and expand appearance. Okay. And I'm going to ungroup all this, and then I'm just going to grab the green, and I'm going to combine it together, right? So now I got all this green shape here. I could get rid of this guy here. I don't need any of that. Okay. And then I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. Okay. And I could just delete these and then grab these 2 points, join them together. Same with this. I can take these 2, delete them, and then join these 2 points together because they're already horizontally aligned, hopefully. And then get rid of, I can just release compound path. And that's going to give me all the little shapes that were in there in the middle. Grab those. And then I can grab all these, delete them, and then join these together. Oops. Like that. And now I got a nice solid shape that I could just pop here. Okay, and that's going to be black. And I'm going to send it to the back. And now I can get rid of my group fill. And now I could take this shape here, and I can add another fill. And I'm just staying consistent, right? I'm not doing anything different. It's the same outline hitting the last time every time. And it creates consistency throughout the design. Got to find my spot. Okay. Like that. And effect, path, offset path, and we're going to go 0.5 pixels, something like that. There we go. And now you can see it goes from black, it fades up. Works really nice. It's got a lot of contrast, but see, like I keep calling it like a sinister look. Like it kind of has that, like a little bit of a mystique to it, I guess you could say, which is, you know, what you want to create in your designs. You want them to have that kind of like a little bit of a mystery to them. you know, how was that accomplished, or how did they do that? Now, some guys already know. They look at something and they're like, oh, that's a gradient stacked on another gradient with the solid something something and then a pattern, right? It's like it just gets easier and easier to decipher as you see it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Kind of got this mess here. Going to delete that. Delete this guy out here like that. I'd probably maybe play with the white on that one a little bit to create more contrast. Play with maybe the thickness of the red a little bit just to get it to match the D up here. But again, I don't need the video to be hours and hours long. I'm just kind of showing you how I would work through it. So now I'm going to work through the last one, and then we're going to talk about the graphic. All right, so I'll bring this over. Kind of like how I have this here, this new setup. So you can see the construct of this one is completely different than the other two that we had set up. The red's in a different spot a little bit. The thicknesses are different. And so, and that's okay as long as you're bringing your brand through. So you got your red, gold, white, and black, right? Red, gold, white, and black. Just be consistent. Bring it everywhere you go. It doesn't have to be the same build everywhere. Just have to bring the consistency of your colors. That's really important. Unless a logo is provided that is green, then you just use it. You just use green. I always try to talk people into, though, if they're using a green logo, like see if there's a way to implement it into the design, right? Like I saw the other day, like a red and white car with a John Deere logo, and instead of actually using a green John Deere logo, he just turned it red. I can't think of an instance where I've ever seen John Deere logo red, except for it's on a race car that John Deere probably had nothing to do with, right? And so it's really important to stick to the branding, especially on a brand like that, because it's just so well known and it's iconic. Like if that's your race car, that's your race team, and you want your car to stand out, like everybody's familiar with that brand. Like you want that brand, let it be a source of authority in your wrap design. Don't just change it because it's not convenient to your color palette. Just cleaning all this stuff out. There we go. It looks like the original is this. All right. So let's see where this brings us. I probably can grab this one and see what happens, because this logo looks like some form of this logo. They look similar. Maybe this one's a little smaller. Yeah, so I'm going to bring that down. And just for the sake of cleanliness, select all the unused. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to see, so we got graphic 10. Go. That looks pretty good first shot, right? So let's see what happens here. Oh, you know what? No. Better just size it down and look at it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, hit that on there like that. And here's the one thing that's not fair. I'm not familiar with these logos. I don't know who built them. I don't know what the restrictions are on them. I'm doing what I want to them, right? Not every instance is going to be like that. Sometimes you're just stuck with what you get. So it's like whatever was provided is what you get. And sometimes you just have to deal with that the best you can. I always try to offer a more solid version. Like, hey, got your logo. It's not like the best looking thing in the world. I don't probably typically say that. But here's what I did to try and help it along so that it's being seen on an 80 to 90 mile an hour race car on any given, night at the races. And a lot of times you'll be surprised, like people will approve that kind of stuff, but if you don't offer it, then you get stuck with some kind of something else. Okay. And in this instance, I don't need the offset path to be round. I kind of like the idea of it being sharp like that. So I'll probably move this out so that point doesn't hit in there. I might actually even just move this so that that white isn't on the other side of the D. Okay. And then group all this together. And did I group it? What we got here? Yep. And I'm going to do a new fill. Set that to the bottom of the contents. Set that there. Go 90. And oh man, I feel the tiredness coming on. Effect, path, offset path, 0.5 pixels. Just kind of guessing at this point. Looks pretty good for the scale and size. I want that closed up. See that little sliver in there? I want that closed up. We don't need a tensioner drawn in there, so we're going to go 0.75 pixels. And then, so after I get done with all the sponsors, which is what I just did, I kind of zoom out and I evaluate everything, and I just look at, is there consistency? Is there consistency in the final outline especially? Like one thing that I really like is, you know, your reds might not all have the same thickness. Your golds might not all reflect the same. But if there's consistency in the thickness of your final outline, it really helps bring everything together in a way that's, I think, super helpful in any design. It's kind of like the glue that sort of brings it together. So like even this here, I'm like looking at this and I'm thinking that last outline could be thickened up. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up this 0.7. See what happens. Nope. Go 4. How about just a little, Ray? How about 3.5? Like that. Trying not to cover that shock up or have to move it around, okay? But just bring it up a little bit. And there might be some more adjustments. Like I could see the thickness on the D is just a little bit more. Even the black over here is a little bit more than over here. So I would kind of play with that and adjust it a little bit, and just try to make it look a little bit more consistent throughout. I'm trying to like not do it because I just don't, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I can't help it, but trying not to make the video like super long. Let's try 4.7. Let's just try 5. Like that. See, I can see that little sliver in there. Okay, so now I'm like determined. There we go. Kind of like thickens it up. Now it's a little thicker than the D. So there's some things I would do to play around with it. I mean, maybe I would leave it not as thick as I have it now, and then hand, pen tool the pen tool that sliver out, and just kind of work it out that way so that it's nice and clean. Okay, and so now when you turn off your graphic, you should have a very clean looking design where you look at it and you're like, actually, those elements look really nice. And so give me just a second. Texting my wife. Those elements look really, really nice, even on their own, even without a graphic. Okay. So now you can kind of see once you get everything in place, that this graphic just doesn't work that well with this number. Cause it's like really blocky. And it just doesn't really fit the vibe. It certainly isn't skewed enough. You got this line here, but it seems like the skew is like, if I had to guess, because the organic nature of this, like the skew is way out here, right? And so at the very least, if I'm like committing to use this graphic, even though this would not be something I would do, I would make the commitment to skew them the same, right? So I might go shear it, and I might just pop a 20 on there like that, right? And that kind of starts to help it work out a little bit, just bring a little bit more flow. I don't want these corners down here busting into that red. That starts looking sloppy. But then when you trap it into the white, you got to move the graphic down quite a bit, which maybe is not a bad thing, moving it down a little bit. Now, the really nice thing about like straight line graphics like this is you could just take your direct select tool, which is the white arrow tool, and you can select all these nodes over here. And because it's straight, you just hold down the shift key and you can pull it, right? And so now like I'm just trying to get this guy out over here. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, get it on the other side of that 5 a little bit, right? Like that. And so now you can start seeing that the graphic is actually trapping the number in. And it starts to flow some, right? And now I could put this on there, and so I got that gold. And maybe I'll try this one and go 90 on it, like that, something like that. And then this light silver here, I'm gonna turn it like a gray color, like that, so it doesn't have all that contrast. And see what it does, it starts bringing that together. Maybe I should go like this. Too light. What I'm trying to do is match that and match that. And what it does is it brings it together. And then I can offset the path on this. And we're going to go -1 pixel, like so. Maybe we could go -0.75. That seems to be the magic number. Negative. Now I'll show you kind of a neat trick with gradients. So there's that back there. I got the shape that I want, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a box. And I'm going to fill it with this guy here. But I got 2 bars in here. But like, let's say I really want to get something like way crazier. So I am going to go ahead and just create a bunch of white ones. Like that. You got to be careful if you're working with spot colors, because if you start doing this, you're going to end up with a mixed color. So you always got to put your spot next to the end of the gradient bar, and then you can click there and it'll just put the same color in. But if you put it anywhere else, it starts mixing them in and it's a mess. Okay, so I'm going to get these whites, and then I'm going to just space them out. Now I'm going to drag this guy over here. Do the same thing. That's just like one of those little tips that you pick up after hours of frustration. Get rid of that one, I think. And there's not really a lot of rhyme or reason to what I'm doing right now. Just kind of, and then I'm going to grab this dark one. Actually, I'll pull this over here. Click that again. Do this. I like both of my ends to match, so that if I do something different with the gradient, the 2 colors that meet up match. So I'll bring this over here. And I'll bring this over here. And I'll bring this over here. Like that. And what I'm doing is I'm starting to get like a really reflective kind of a thing if you look over at the square here, right? It's hard to explain exactly what I'm doing here, but there's a method, there's a reason for it. And so do that. Okay. So now that's pretty good. It's a little random. Gets a little spread out here towards the end. We don't necessarily need that. So maybe like that. I think that's pretty good. Get rid of that. All right, like that. So I think that's good. Now I'm going to just take that, put it down here, grab this guy here that we just created a second ago, and I'm going to pop this on it, right? It doesn't look like much, but then when you hit 45 on it instead of straight, you get these like shimmers that go across it, right? So all the way through, right? Another white shimmer. And it just helps it to really kind of give it that dynamic look that you're going for. And you can mess with the type of gradient that you're putting on it, radial or whatever. So I don't like to mess with that kind of stuff too much, because I don't want to like, sometimes that kind of stuff can like crash a file. But you get the idea. So now we added this dynamic thing, and I can even go in and select the white. Looks like I have 2 unjoined nodes. Join that and go object, path, offset path. Nope, wrong one. Effect. Well, now I'm just going to do it. Object, path, offset path. So this is the standard one, and we're going to go 0.75 pixels. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add that guy on there, and then I'm going to pop them at a 45-degree angle. And this time I'm going to reflect them the opposite direction just so that there's a little bit more happening. You don't see the white as much because it's up against white, but now you can kind of see, right? And it's just as simple as that. You get a little bit of a kind of a goldish kind of a look. And then on this guy here, probably just get rid of this dark one here and this dark one here, and just let it kind of be a standard gold look, not too, just more subtle, right? Now when you zoom out, there you go. Now I would play with a couple of things more. I wouldn't necessarily be done yet. A couple of things I like is bringing this guy down and then bringing duct tape down, right? I don't want duct tape up in that red line. Like, let's just get everything consistent. And then I'd bring all this down, right? Like that. So it starts creating a more consistent look. I would try to figure out a way. I might thicken up the black on this to really just knock out what is happening here. I'd probably move Schaefer's, things like that. Things I'm not going to do in this video because I don't want the video to be as long as of me just like, you know, moving stuff around and experimenting, but more so just talking about the dynamics of creating a lot of contrast. So I do have the opportunity though now, because I have all this space, is sizing this guy up, which is going to totally change the scale of the sponsor. But it does take up more space, and it makes the car look more full, and it makes things look more intentional. Same with this guy, right? I can give a lot more space with him, and he's part of the brand. So I pull it up, and it just helps make everything look more intentional. And so now I can pull this down. Like that. I don't want it dipped up in there. I don't want this little bit dipping down in there. It starts looking broken when you do that, especially these straight line graphics. So something like that. And then I could just come in here and I can just select just these nodes here. And I got to do it by eye because they're not straight, but I could pull these back up, right? So I can start anytime you got a straight line graphic, you got that working to your benefit where you can kind of move things like a bit of a piston, right? Like that. Now, the 5 just does some weird things here with these awkward, this is just an awkward shape to end up with at the end. So I would be figuring out ways to fill it or add something or just something, you know, just a name, maybe another sponsor or an oval sponsor that fits in there. Like, is the Dryden logo, is that an oval? I don't know. SRGFX logo. Bam. Just something, you know, it's a lot of empty space in a weird spot. It's not necessarily bad, but I don't know that it works either. I can also size that up. I don't want that touching. I would probably play with this a little bit more, maybe just to get a little bit more contrast on it. But you can really see how it starts coming together. And see, it's got that consistency of like Darrell Waltrip's number, right? The red kind of on the silver there. So last thing, again, I feel like this particular graphic doesn't work because of the nature of the nature of the graphic as far as its shapes go. They don't fit the overall feel. So like what I would want is something more like this, right? You got a lot of organic pieces that really help out. So you can see that like it's super solid. As soon as you get rid of this, like there's something about this that looks incomplete. And it looks a little bit just unfinished, right? And so by bringing in something like this, and landing it in the right spot. So this is graphic 105 off the website. You can really do a lot of dynamic things with it without it having to, make a lot of changes, but it ends up fitting the vibe. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to do a lot of work with it. But I'm going to bring it down. And so now you can see like the graphic fills in this spot really well. Like it actually just looks really good. And I've not even like changed the colors or anything yet. So the one thing I would want is to like get this point, like the red point here. I would want that to show up here. I don't want that hidden. I don't want main points hidden. Right. So I'm going to get that there like that. I'm going to turn this red, the actual red that's in the car already. And then maybe these shadows, I'm going to turn the same red color that's in the design. I could either turn this red like that or ditch it. Same with these. There's all these little shapes in here. And so I could do that, something like that. And it looks kind of cool. I'd probably go ahead, and this is what I do with all my graphics. Like if, anytime I post a graphic on the site, I never use it out of the box as is. I'm always thinking, what can I do that's unique with this thing? And then that helps you get away from people saying, oh, you're using Ray's graphics. Because I know some really good designers that use my graphics, and people don't know that they're using my graphics because they do a really good job. Not just hiding it, but just creating really excellent designs that at the end of the day, people don't care. So go ahead and I turn this gray. It gives a lot of contrast, right? Again, finding that same vibe in there. And then maybe this could be the white. Maybe this will be white, right? Or we could turn this the gray color, and then these could be white, right? Because maybe white is too much, right, for the entire design. So, but in little hints, it works, right? So now you start seeing that like work through the design, and some of this could be deleted. We don't need to keep it all, right? We're going to keep it clean. And so we'll turn that black like that. Turn this black like that. And then figure out a way to like finish out right here. Okay. And so you can see like that seems to work far better than the straight line graphic. And I've not done much with it yet. There's a lot of things that I would probably do with it to really get it to work and clean up. Now, Scooter might be like, no, I like my graphic. I like it how it was. That's my brand. Like that's how I'm going to roll. And so it's non-negotiable. Like I have to have that graphic. But you can see taking it this direction, just how much it gives the whole thing a totally different, like aggressive vibe, right? And this graphic isn't like, it's not novel. It's not like incredibly unique. Like nobody's ever done anything like that before, but it's just enough that it's like, it helps. It just helps bring that number to life. So here's the thing that I always do, right? You can see this here. Don't ever be afraid to do that. Cut the graphic. Cut it with the eraser tool, right? And then grab the piece that you need to be in a different spot. Well, something didn't cut. Let's do this. Hold down Shift, strike through. It gives you a nice clean line. Man, that is going to be dumb. It must be a group. Okay, and then do that. Something like that. So you could do something like that. It gets a little lost back here. I would play with it more. There would be more things that I would do with that. But by default, I would already be thinking, I'm turning the red on this car. I'm turning the plastic on this car. I'm going to turn it red. Like that's what I'm doing. That's the very next thing I'm doing. I'm going to have that graphic run right down into the bottom of the car, and then I'm going to turn it red. And there's other things you can do too to give it, again, that more mature feel. So like I like this red, but I also want it to be a little more subtle. So I'm going to fade it from red to red, right? And that's the benefit of using more of the colors in your wheel. So now instead of it just being deep red everywhere, I can really spread this out. And it gives it a softer feel, but it keeps the aggressiveness to it. That's what I really like. And I could just pull it out like that, something like that. And you obviously play with it more so that it's, kind of more like that. Like, see, that's a really neat look. You just start eyedroppering that and like messing around and getting more of those types of dynamics. And maybe even playing with the possibility of, just bringing this over. I am super sloppy with my points until the end, and then I clean them up. I cut everything up, clean it up, make it solid. But I will move stuff around and experiment until I find something that I really like think works with everything on the car. Never think to myself like this graphic has to work out of the box. I always think there's a way to manipulate this, and we're going to do something to make it look better, right? And I could take this and this, turn it black, and then pull it down a little. It doesn't need to be super light gray, right? And I would do all kinds of work in here to clean this kind of stuff up so it's not like super confusing looking, right? It looks like a lot of things going on in there. Get that guy out of there. Stuff like that. Okay, so, and then, you know, in this instance, maybe I would move the number back a little bit. It just looks a little bit more natural, more towards the back, you know, kind of a thing. And maybe pull this guy forward. Probably should have that group together. But you get the feel. You get the idea, right? Consistency. You create consistent designs. They have consistency throughout. And then when it comes to the graphic is the last piece, and things begin to fall into place naturally. You don't have to force it, right? If you put your graphic on first, you got to force things to work. But you do your graphic last, and then you end up with, you know, something really neat in the end. And you can even, like graphics like this, squeeze them up, right? Nobody's going to know you did that, unless you're really go way too far. But yeah, I think that subjectively, you know, that just overall the design flows more. It kind of stands out more. There's more things we could do with it. Add patterns in the background, do things like that. Play with it some more. I would like for this red to dip down below the sponsor so it's not going up in there. Probably clean some of this up so that it just doesn't look confusing. It doesn't have a flow right now. It's a little confusing. But yeah, you get the idea. So that pretty much sums up how I would go through this car and make it more readable, make it stand out more, and just help the theme all come together as one component. If you have any questions, you can always hit me up on srgfx.com /support. You can hit me up on the Facebook group, facebook.com. I think it's facebook.com /groups /srgfx. And just feel free to like and subscribe on our YouTube page.